What's up everybody, this is Ginger, and today I want to go over Falco's best and worst stages and why. What I essentially mean by this is that I went over on my stream Falco's stage priority in every high tier matchup. This is Fox, Marth, Puff, Sheik, and Peach. I didn't do Captain Falcon, I didn't do Ice Climbers, I didn't do Samus. We might get to those eventually, but as you guys can see here, we actually already wrote 9 pages of information that I'm going to be going through for you guys. And it might seem like it's a lot of information, but there are going to be timestamps down below if you're curious about a certain character. And also, all of this information, this document, is available to all of my subscribers, twitch.tv/ssbmginger, if you want to find out how to gain access to that. But yeah, what I figure I'll do is just do a quick rundown and try to give a summary of certain stages and why I feel that way. So we can jump into it. Starting out with Fox, which I believe is his closest high tier matchup. All of these are listed, by the way, in order of best to worst. So if you see here, we start with Battlefield. We're going all the way down to FD being his worst stage here, right? So it's best stage to worst stage. So essentially, with Fox and Battlefield, all of these reasons written here are just perfect. I couldn't think of any negatives that directly impacted the matchup. The horizontal space is perfect. You can stay close to Fox, but you also have the room to laser. Top platform is so high that it forces Fox to commit to a double jump. The height of the side platforms makes it hard to punish for Fox. With his up throw, the higher the side platforms are, the more difficult it can be for him to tech chase, because you have to spend less time falling as he up throws you. It's sort of a wonky thing, but it definitely plays into the matchup quite a bit. Having no wall to ride makes it easier to edgeguard. I think this is a bigger deal for Falco than it is for Fox. Obviously, there's no wall to ride for you to recover with as well. But like I said, I think this is just a bigger thing for Falco than it is for Fox. And I wrote down that you can shine land effectively. This is probably the best stage where you can shine land. But yeah, moving on to Pokemon Stadium. Almost all positives here as well. I don't think a lot of the stage actually factors into the matchup, but there are a few things, right? The biggest thing that a lot of people don't talk about are the side platforms in relation to the edge. So this means that you can back up into the corner, but you don't necessarily have to be all the way in the danger zone. So like if Fox running shines you for trying to go for a short hop laser in the corner, you don't directly fly off the stage and die. This is a huge thing on this stage, and it's really, really important. Also, the space in between the ground and then, or I guess I should say in between the two side platforms is really important, because you can actually be off center and still be decently centered in stage. So that's definitely really good. No wall to ride again. This is essentially the same thing as Battlefield. No top platform. I think hinders Fox a little bit more than it hinders Falco. It definitely takes away slightly from both, but I consider that a positive. The only bad things that I could really think about on this stage are the transformations are bad for Falco. You do also die off the top slightly sooner, but you can also kill Fox off the top with like Shine Up be slightly sooner, and most kills are going to be off the side in general, unless you're getting hit by like up throw, up smash or something, but it really only differs by like 10% or whatever, so I didn't really write that down. Right here, I said that Yoshi's and Dreamland are kind of similar in my mind, and you can kind of, you know, take your own opinion for this, right? Because I know certain Falcos like having the space, certain Falcos like being on top of the Fox so they can play mix-ups faster. But yeah, we can just go through this. So I started out with Yoshi's. Slanted ledges can help you slightly on edge guards. Your down smash reaches slightly lower, things like that. Not a huge thing, but definitely something that's Yoshi's story exclusive. Guaranteed kill off the top with a shine. Or no, sorry. Guaranteed kill off of a shine. This is really, really important, because this is the only stage where this happens. So if a Fox DIs off the stage from around 35 to 50, I'm not exactly sure which percents this combos, but if you get a shine and they DI it off the stage in order to not get comboed anymore, right? They've DI'd it out, then you can actually just wave dash out of the shine, short hop out, fast fall, and then double jump down air them. And this is a guaranteed kill because the ceiling, or not the ceiling, but the floor is so high that they just immediately die and they can't even double jump out of it. And this is the only stage where that can happen, which is actually a pretty huge thing, because you have to think, if they don't want to guaranteed die, then they have to take a ton of percent. And then here we are with Dreamland. Dreamland is good for, oh sorry, I copy pasted something here, but you get laser control on Dreamland where you might not otherwise get it on Yoshi's, right? So I think I wrote that here. Yoshi's is not enough space to set up laser control, but Dreamland is good for that reason, because you do get the laser control and you're able to see Fox's approaches a little bit more easily, right? His approaches are a little bit more telegraphed. On Dreamland as well, you have a high top platform, which can be really, really good. The lower the top platform, the more effective Fox's full hop is, which is what I wrote down here for a negative for Yoshi's, is that Yoshi's allows for omnipresence of Fox's full hop. This means that no matter where you are on the stage, essentially you're always at risk of Fox full hopping at you. Whether or not you're on the top platform, whether or not you're on the side platform, in the corner, he can always kind of full hop at you, which is definitely really scary. But that's one other thing that's really good about Dreamland is that Fox's full hop isn't nearly as threatening. I consider these two stages to be about even. I actually think the guaranteed kill off of a Shine is a pretty big deal, and I also think that just being closer to Fox doesn't have to be a bad thing. So yeah, that's Yoshi's in Dreamland. We have FOD next. I really don't like FOD. As you see here, FOD and FD are almost completely negatives. It's not to say that these stages are impossible for Falco to win, but what I want to try and illustrate for you guys is that there are certain things about the stage that play into the matchup, right? So low side platforms can mess up your lasers, which in turn can mess up your corner pressure. Corner pressure is a huge thing for Falco in essentially any matchup, and definitely against Fox. And so if the side platform is too low, you have a really hard time of setting up laser control and actually getting that pressure. Laser forward tilts can be extremely difficult to line up. And then you have full hop is really, really good for Fox on the stage, same as Yoshi's essentially. It's that same omnipresence that I talked about before. Top platform is about the same height, if not like literally the same height as the Yoshi Stories one. So you land on the top platform slightly sooner, but Fox can kind of get to you just with a full hop, and it can be tough to get away from him. And then Fox has a wall to ride, right? Which we talked about before. If he doesn't have a wall to ride, it's probably better for you than it is for him. And now that he does have a wall to ride, it's better for Fox than it is for you, right? He can recover from lower and has more mix-up options with all the different angles and different, different angles that he can choose to ride up the wall at different speeds and all that. And it can be really, really difficult to account for all that. Next up, we have FD. You can laser a lot, but you actually have a hard time coming out on top of risk reward. So if you're lasering a lot of times if Fox calls you out, he just has guaranteed punishes on this stage. So it's cool to set up laser control and have the space, but it can be really hard to turn that into a meaningful mix-up where you like get a huge open up and actually get the reward that he would have gotten, right? Fox has a chain grab on the stage, which is a bigger boost to his punish than yours. This is similar to what I was just talking about. So your punish game is definitely boosted here. You don't have to worry about the side platforms, which mess up a lot of Falco combos if you don't have like perfect execution or read the Fox correctly. So your punish game is still slightly buffed because you don't have to deal with the platform mix-ups and all that. But he does still have access to SDI out of certain combos, depending on the percent, depending on where you are at the stage. But Fox has a chain grab, which is completely guaranteed. He has like essentially guaranteed kill setups as long as he's reacting correctly and grabbing at the right percents, up tilting at the right percents, and obviously up smashing at the right percents as well, which can be difficult, but it's definitely a bigger boost to Fox's punish game than it is for Falco's. No side platforms to recover to. This is a big deal. Falco likes to use those side platforms to either edge cancel his side B on or just land on with his up B. So that's definitely a huge thing that he's missing out on. And a lot of times for Fox, having side platforms to land on isn't even that good because he has to go so much higher with the arc of his up B. And so you can actually cover him landing on the side platforms regardless. So it's definitely a little bit worse for you that there are no side platforms. And then oddly shaped wall for Fox to ride gives him too many recovery mix-ups to cover effectively. This is very similar to what I was talking about on FOD, where he has a wall to recover to, but on FD the wall is curved, and so Fox has even more angles and different tricky mix-ups depending on where he starts his up B and what angle he chooses, and it's extremely hard to cover everything. So that's the Fox matchup. Those are how the stages play into it. So hopefully you guys get a good idea of kind of like what I'm trying to illustrate with all this, and now we can move on to Marth. So again, we're going from best to worst. Here we have Dreamland, and I wrote here in the pros, having horizontal space allows you to establish laser control, which is a key factor in the matchup, right? So this is a really, really important thing. You want to establish that laser control and get Marth to back up into the corner a lot, which I can actually talk about this con right here really quickly too, because it plays into this. It is a good thing to have this horizontal space, but Marth can actually move backwards multiple times before he's actually in the danger zone. The danger zone, again, is when you're right next to the ledge and you can be hit off and then put into an edge guard position, essentially. So, although you have that space, not always does it really translate into a big advantage for your position, right? You have to kind of move forward at him a few times before you actually get him to the corner. You have walls to ride to get around the edge guards, which is really, really good. You live until high percents, which can be detrimental to Marth's game plan, which is also really good. As Marth kind of combos you above 120%, it's really difficult for him to find any like guaranteed combos, right? I think the up throw, up B really only works until like 115, maybe 119 or something like that. So above 120, he really has no kill options that are like 100% guaranteed. And on Dreamland, you're going to be living to those high percents a lot of the time. This is a big reason why this stage is really important. High top platform makes it so Marth has to commit a lot harder. This essentially means that he has to commit to using like either a full hop aerial or like a short hop double jump or a full hop double jump to get all the way up to the top platform. And a lot of times they don't want to make that commitment because Marth is all like really, really low commitment into really, really hard punish. High side platforms make it hard for Marth to combo you. This essentially means that he can't use those tip or F smashes. His up tilt covers less of the platforms. It's definitely just really, really good for you. Yoshi's story is, I believe, the second best stage in this matchup for you. Marth can't dash back nearly as much. This means that you can get a lot closer to him, right? This is the exact opposite of what we talked about on Dreamland. Marth also dies at lower percents, so more and more as you're pushing him to the corner, you can actually kill him off the sides earlier, and then also, since the ceiling is so low, you can also kill him off the top on this stage, which is something that you can't really effectively do on Dreamland and a few other stages, right? Marth has the slants, so you can't sweet spot around his edge guarding sometimes. So you normally can't sweet spot around his down tilt regardless, but on this stage it becomes incredibly difficult to double jump sweet spot, to side B, shorten sweet spot. All that stuff is really hard. Marth has an easier time covering it. Even with his forward smash actually reaches lower as well. Having a low top platform means that he can combo slightly easier and have more presence on the stage. He can actually reach the top platform with just a short hop up air. He doesn't have to commit that hard, and he can get a tipper up air and continue to combo you, right? That's definitely big. Low side platforms mean that he can forward smash, tipper, and combo easier. Again, essentially the exact opposite of Dreamland. So all of the pros are kind of cons on this stage, or all of the pros for Dreamland are cons for Yoshi's story, I should say it like that. But I really do think that this pro right here, we might even add a couple pluses here, are really, really good. This is excellent. When you catch Marth, quickly you can force those aggressive options on him, those late aerials, those approaching lasers, those shine grabs to throw him off stage. That's like how the matchup is meant to be played. So on a horizontal stage like, or a stage with a lot of horizontal space like Dreamland, it can really, really mess you up. So this is a huge advantage, which is why I put it over Battlefield and Pokemon Stadium and Fountain. I know that some people like Fountain in this matchup as well. The third one that I wrote here, keep in mind this is all my opinion, but I'm trying to flesh out the reasons for these things so you guys might be able to get an idea of why I think this. So long platforms make it hard for Marth coverage. This is essentially talking about the same thing we talked about on Dreamland, where not only the height of the platforms, but the length of the platforms matter quite a bit. Marth can't just cover the entire platform with a forward air or something, right? His up air might cover all of it with a certain timing, but you can get slide off DIs. His up tilt doesn't cover all of the platform. So having longer platforms can be really, really good against Marth. And I believe that Battlefield has the longest ones. No walls to ride make it more telegraphed for how Marth will recover. I think that having the walls to ride for you is definitely a big thing as well, but seeing the arc in which Marth is coming down, and if he doesn't have a jump, you know exactly like when he has to up B, because he can't just ride the wall. So that's definitely important. I'm not sure. I probably should have written that this was a con for Falco as well. So it's kind of like a plus/minus, right? Highest top platform in the game makes it so that he has to commit to hit you. This is essentially what we talked about on Dreamland. Horizontal space makes it less risky to set up laser control. Again, this is a plus. I didn't write it as a minus on this stage because I'm thinking of it as like Battlefield. He can't back up that many times. I did write that he can back up a lot of times here, but I do think that having the horizontal space makes it less risky to set up that laser control, and also you can get on top of him a lot quicker than you can on Dreamland or Pokemon Stadium or FD. Oh, I actually did write this here. Wow, that's silly. So I wrote a plus/minus. We already went over that, which is perfect. So moving on to Pokemon Stadium, having a horizontal space allows you to set up laser control, which is a key factor in the matchup, right? We already talked about that. No walls make it hard, make it more telegraphed for how Marth will recover. You guys have probably seen him try to go way too low and then get stuck under the stage and all that. But again, having no walls to ride for you also makes it harder to recover. Space in the center stage is great for staying out of Marth's threat range off the side platforms. This is a position I like to call off-center. So when you're slightly off-center, Marth can't just hit you with a runoff fair. So a lot of times he has to commit to a short hop off that side platform to try and hit you, which you can react to, right? So you're kind of in this reactable zone where you can see everything that he's going to do. You have control of the ground, and he's going to have to come to you eventually as long as you have the lead, right? Being on Pokemon Stadium allows for off-the-top kills, not nearly as often as Yoshi's, though. That really, really low ceiling on Yoshi's combined with having a top platform allows you to get a lot of off-the-top kills with up tilt, shine off the top. Certain times you can shine up B, shine off the top is classic as well. But you can definitely get off-the-top kills on Pokemon Stadium sometimes as well. Having no top platform can definitely be a good or a bad thing. Top platform can be used to disengage with Falco, which is really good for getting out of the corner, but Marth also polices the top platform on certain stages really, really hard. So having the no top platform can be a good or a bad thing, right? And then horizontal space allows him to move backwards multiple times. This is essentially the same thing on Dreamland. FOD here, we got the heights and lengths of the side platforms can actually mess up Marth punishes. This is really, really good, right? On certain stages, you can't slide off DI the up tilt, at least from my understanding, if he gets a certain hitbox ID, right? So if he tippers it, essentially. But on this stage, he'll try to up tilt you on those side platforms, but you can actually slide off, right? Because now you're getting hit by like the hilt of the up tilt because the platform is so much lower, and you can actually escape those combos. Having walls to ride is definitely awesome for you to get around the edge guards. Marth can't back up nearly as much. This is kind of... It's not great because the low side platforms can also mess up your lasers, so for you to establish that laser control and get him to back up into the corner can be a lot more difficult. But the low top platform means that he can combo slightly easier and have more presence on the stage. It's essentially the same thing as we talked about on Yoshi's, right? FD, again, a lot of these pros are going to be in a few of the stages because the horizontal space is very similar, right, with FD, Pokemon Stadium, and Dreamland. So we already kind of went over this. Having walls to ride, essentially the same thing, right? Marth has a really hard time getting down with no platforms. This is a big plus for FD. When I actually wrote this out, I was thinking, like, is FD really not that bad for Falco? I started to think that maybe Falco just still wins on this stage. I'm not sure. I'm of the opinion that Falco does very well in this matchup. I know a lot of people don't think so, but when you write it out like this, or at least talk about what the stages give to each characters, it really seems like FD isn't that bad. Marth has a really hard time getting down with no platforms. His mix-ups aren't amazing. You can shark beneath him with up tilts, just shielding his aerials coming down, or back air lines up perfectly with a lot of things as well. But this is the big negative about FD, and you guys all know it, right? So it doesn't help your punish game nearly as much as his does, right? Risk-reward mix-ups become much more skewed in his favor. So what I want to highlight about this is that every single interaction you have, you can either win or lose, right? There's generally counterplay to every situation in the game, but when you do these mix-ups on FD, the risk becomes much higher because his reward is so much higher, right? So it's really, really difficult to find risk-reward mix-ups that are in your favor consistently, right? Horizontal space allows him to move backwards and no platforms to recover to. This is a similar thing that we talked about with Fox, where you don't have access to, let's say, a shortened side B or a lengthened side B that edge cancels on the side platform mix-up anymore, right? You don't have an up B that you can arc just kind of at that 20-degree angle that perfectly puts you on the side platform to help you recover. So FD, I think, is probably your worst stage, but it doesn't even seem that bad. Moving on to Jigglypuff, I think that Yoshi's Story is definitely your best stage. This is a huge plus. So off the top kills are extremely abundant, more abundant than any other matchup in the game, essentially. She has to play much, much more carefully around you with no space to actually play that carefully, right? This is a similar thing with Falco versus Marth, where we talked about Marth's reward being so much higher, so every single interaction is so much more difficult for the Falco to find. In this situation, it's hard for Puff to find really, really good risk-reward mix-ups for her, so this is excellent for Falco, because you can kill her off the top. Literally, if you find a shine on the ground at like 35%, I think you can kill her, depending on the DI. Having a top platform helps you escape the corner and also stops her combos. This is essentially going to be written for every single stage that has a top platform, but yeah. Falco is strong in the close quarter situations. If you can get Puff on the ground, and if you're close to her, the mix-ups are really, really good for you, and that's definitely something I want to highlight. The lack of space can sometimes make it hard to laser her and get her on the ground quickly. This means that, like, you know, she can kind of play closer to you and force aggressive mix-ups by just jumping a couple of times, which is definitely a con, but it's not the biggest deal in the world because you still have access to so many zoning tools, right? And you die more quickly to rest. This means that, like, essentially at 0%, I'm not sure if you can actually live anywhere on the stage, which obviously you can on stages like Dreamland or FD, right? Pokemon Stadium, having off-the-top kills often, but not nearly as much as on Yoshi's, right? You don't have the top platform, similar to what we talked about with Marth. Horizontal space allows you to play more patiently, which in turn puts Puff on the ground. Your whole thing in this matchup is to get Puff on the ground. So when you can play this patiently, and when Puff doesn't have a top platform, it can be really hard for Puff to stay in the air, right? Especially if you back up and play patiently. which is excellent. Puff's approaches become a lot more telegraphed. Again, this has to do with the platform positions on Pokemon Stadium, and also just like kind of the angles that she has to approach from with the amount of horizontal space that you have. Space between the side platforms and the ledge make it so you don't have to put yourself in the danger zone while playing defensively. A big thing about this matchup is that you can play really defensively, and that you probably should be a lot of the time. Until she gets on the ground, right? So this is similar to what we talked about in the Fox matchup, where you can back up and be in the corner, but not be in the danger zone. Transformations can benefit or hurt you. You can live from certain rests by teching on walls, but also certain points like the grass transformation can be really hard to like set up laser control. On the right side of the fire transformation, like shooting short hop lasers can be really difficult, and she can play a lot closer to you as well. So they can either benefit you or hurt you. It's kind of up in the air. Having no top platform can be bad, right? You can't full hop to escape to the platform, right? This means like a lot of times when you're in the corner in this matchup, you want to just full hop up to the top platform because you accelerate so much more quickly up there than she does. So it's just an easy escape, but you can't do it on Pokemon Stadium. So you kind of have to eat a mix-up. Going to Battlefield, I still think this is an excellent stage, but I don't think it really does much for either character. So you have a high top platform to escape to, which is great. Essentially the exact opposite of what we just talked about. Good amount of space allows you to play patiently and get Puff on the ground, which is great. You don't have a ton of space, but enough. You can still get some off the top kills. Having a top platform allows for that. And then no walls to ride make it kind of hard to recover. But it's a decently neutral stage in my mind. I think that Falco wins the matchup, so on a neutral stage, I think he wins. But there's definitely just a few pros and a couple cons as well. These aren't that strong, except for the high top platform. It's pretty strong. But these two really aren't huge, right? And this isn't huge for her either because she can generally edgeguard you in other ways, right? So now we go to FD. He has two major things here. So horizontal space with no platforms make it very telegraphed for the intentions for Puff, right? If she's drifting towards you after having full hop double jumped, you know that she's coming in to try and do something, right? So having telegraphed intentions like that could be really bad for Puff, especially if you're ready to zone and if you're watching and waiting and reacting correctly. Puff either has to go to the ledge or go to the ground. This is huge. Your whole thing is that you want Puff on the ground. So if she has to land there, it's amazing for you. Up throw will never land you on a platform for a tech trap rest mix-up. This isn't a huge thing, but something worth noting, right? As long as you're DIing the up throws correctly, you're not going to die. Walls to ride for recovery can be good, but generally still can be covered by Puff. Right, this is kind of something we talked about before. This is kind of like a baby plus. Sometimes you can get off the top kills, but there's like two separate 5% ranges where you can actually do that, right? There's like Shine up air, which is like around 80% where that works. And then Shine on the ground to Shine off the top works at like literally like 58 to like 63 or something. So they're not very abundant, but it does happen sometimes. Having no platforms to retreat to or recover on is definitely a huge detriment, right? Exactly why we talked about why Battlefield is good is why FD is bad. And then Puff's punish game is buffed when yours is nerfed, right? So you can't really get the platform tech chases anymore, which is really, really unfortunate because that's a big part of your punish game. But hers, she can shark you a lot more easily. She can kind of just combo you across the stage more easily. No platforms to mess her up. So yeah, it's kind of interesting the way it works out. Dreamland, I actually don't think, hot take, I don't think is your worst stage in this matchup. So horizontal space makes it easy to play patiently, which is excellent. Same thing we talked about on Pokemon Stadium. Platform positions make for good defensive positions, right? You can go on those side platforms, which are pretty high, which can deal with Puff approaching you. You also always have the ability to run off the side platform and go back to the ground and be in the corner, or you can full hop to that top platform. All of those are really, really good. So this is a slight positive for you, but big negative, so big positive for Puff. Your kill setups still work at high percent, but you have to win more interactions. This is the whole reason why Puff likes this stage. She doesn't just die from Shine off the top at 35% like she does on Yoshi's. You definitely have to work a lot more for your kills, but luckily I think that given the amount of horizontal space you have to play with, it's not the worst thing in the world. Puff still kills at similar percents though. This is the unfortunate thing. You still get gimped at the same percents. You still get up throw arrested at essentially the same percents as you do on every other stage except for maybe Yoshi's. And it can be hard to catch up from a deficit. This is because Puff can play so patiently in the end game when you don't have enough time to also play patiently back, right? Especially if she has the lead, it can be hard not to push forward. So FOD, this is like the biggest negative ever, but kind of a positive for you sometimes. So what I wrote here is that on FOD, side platforms ruin your lasers, right? They can just, and your whole thing is you're trying to establish laser control, get her on the ground. And then they make it so you can't corner pressure or punish Puff on the ground, right? If Puff is just crouching underneath one of those low side platforms, I don't know how you're supposed to hit her effectively. You can run up grab, but like it's really hard to shoot a laser that's even effective. everything that you want is in the matchup is gone now. You have to play like scuffle situations. Puff is a lot closer to you, so she could force more mix-ups. A lot of the angles that she can approach at are really hard to account for because of the way that she's like approaching. It's really weird. But sometimes they don't. Cool. That's like the baby plus here. Having a top platform is good, although it's basically tied for the lowest one of the game, right? So this is a plus, but it's like, come on, right? Like, we just want one thing. We just want a top platform, but it's really low. You have a wall to ride to recover, although Puff can still generally cover it, and then high ceilings make it hard to get off the top kills, which is also a negative. This is very similar to Dreamland. You can still get a couple, but again, the percent ranges are pretty tight. Moving on to Sheik, I think the Pokemon Stadium is most likely the best stage, although FD is really close. They're both really, really good stages for Falco. And a lot of the things that are good about Pokemon Stadium are also good for FD. So horizontal space allows you to set up laser control without threat of being punished. This is essentially the same thing for every matchup with Pokemon Stadium. Side platform heights make it hard for Sheik to corner the pressure the corner with short hop aerials, because she'll actually land on those side platforms. Still possible, but more difficult. She can do the aerials slightly earlier, or fast fall through the platforms and do something to actually hit you. But yeah, it's definitely more difficult for her to do that. Low ceiling allows for off the top kills, can be important during edge guards at high percent or combos, right? So if she lands on the side platform at like 110 or like 115, you can like shine waveland, full hop, double jump up air. This is like a thing that works here, but like not on FD, right? So the low ceiling definitely helps in that regard. Transformations in general are better for you than they are for Sheik. I'm willing to stand by that, although it's kind of hard to say, right? It's really hard to like weigh risk reward when you're dealing with a giant mountain that just pops up out of nowhere. Easy to shark before she lands because side platforms are low. Also, a lot of the space on the stage is not covered by the platforms. This is really, really good. Sharking Sheik is extremely important. Her aerial drift and also her aerials coming down, her hitboxes that protect her on the way down are not very good. This is a big plus for you and kind of bad. So Sheik has a hard time using side platform recovery options, but so do you, right? Because they're so much farther away from the ledge, right? No top platform means that you can't full hop escape there, but she also can't effectively camp, so this is a plus and a minus. No real wall to ride, which can make it make recovering telegraphed, right? So she can kind of just see exactly how you're going to be recovering, and up tilt pokes through the side platforms. So she has some like poke options to like kind of pressure you when you escape or retreat to side platforms. FD is also a great stage. You have the horizontal space, right? No platforms make it so Sheik has to play the ground game with you, and Falco wins the ground game, right? This is a big plus. Very easy to shark Sheik. This is huge. Exactly what we talked about on Pokemon Stadium, but to another degree, right? Because she either goes to the ledge or she's going to have to come down with some really crappy mix-up. This is a big plus for you, but maybe slightly bad for her, or slightly good for her. Way easier edge guarding with no platform mix-ups, and you don't have side platforms to recover to. So you also don't have the platforms to recover to, but I think it's probably worse for Sheik, right? Because her recovery mix-ups are already so limited. Having a wall to ride makes it hard for her to edge guard you. You can't use full hop Waveland on side platforms to escape out of the corner, but now has access to short hop and full hop needles in the corner, right? So what I mean here is that a lot of times when you approach Sheik in the corner, she'll just full hop Waveland to the side platform, and it's like, oh heck, well now you're up there. Like that's really a hard, a difficult situation to deal with, especially because Sheik's shield dropping options are so good and she's so quick in that situation. So when you take that away from her, that's great. But now she has access to short hop and full hop needles in the corner because now there's no platform to stop those needles from kind of allowing her to shoot them at you when you're trying to control center stage and maybe shoot a laser forward tilt or something, right? So dash attack combos from Sheik are slightly more streamlined on the stage because there's no side platforms that you can land on after getting hit by one, and that's like really the only big negative. Yoshi's Story I would consider probably the next best stage. Low ceilings make it for all the top kills. This is essentially every matchup for Falco. Lack of space means that you can get on top of Sheik sooner and force her to, into the corner faster, but you also have less room to set up laser control, which can be a bad thing, but you generally don't want to be shooting that many lasers regardless. Close blast zone in all directions means you can kill her earlier percents. This is a big deal. The reason why I specified here in all directions is because edge guarding situations, you're going to be back airing her off a lot of times. Sometimes you're going to be forward smashing or down smashing. She's definitely going to die off the sides and off the bottom a lot sooner than she does on other stages. Sheik's recovery allows for her to kind of like recover from the depths a lot of the time, but not on Yoshi's because the ceiling is so high, or the ceiling's so low and the floor is so high. Side platforms make it difficult for Sheik to corner pressure. This is essentially the same thing as Pokemon Stadium. Side platforms help Sheik recovery, but also help yours. This is definitely a big plus to Sheik because the side platforms actually extend over the lip of the stage on the ground. So sometimes she can actually use that little lip to go straight up and land on. But you definitely also have a lot of recovery mix-ups with the edge cancel side B and just up being to the side platform and all that. But if you do land on the side platform, or if you just find yourself on the side platform, she can definitely poke at you. Up tilt can be really frustrating to have to deal with in this situation. Having a wall to ride is great, but she also can wall jump off of this wall and actually have some decent recovery mix-ups, right? Like wall jump bear versus wall jump turnaround needle up B. All those things can definitely be really, really good for her. And the slant definitely helps with sheik edge guarding, but not that much. Her down smash becomes a little bit better, her down tilt becomes a little bit better. But a lot of times you're not going to be recovering in that way, regardless. So Battlefield has a good balance of horizontal space for staying close, but also setting up laser control, which is fantastic. Top platforms is at a good height for Falco. It's definitely hard for Sheik to reach you up there effectively, and also it's set at a really, really good height. Side platforms allow for both characters to have more recovery mix-ups as a plus and a minus. Now this is the worst thing on this stage, is that side platform positions, both horizontal and vertical, and the lengths of the platforms make it really hard to approach Sheik when she's camping. So if she chooses to back up and go to the side platforms, just charge needles, right? How do you effectively hit her without having to risk something? It can be difficult because you have to be really precise, but since the length of the side platforms is so long, it can be really hard to actually effectively do that. Having no walls to ride can make it telegraphed. Long side platforms make your off-center positioning fairly back into the corner. So this is what I talked about with the off-center position against Marth. Like if they're the side platforms and she's trying to run off fair, you have to back up slightly farther. It's not even necessarily a run off fair, but also her needles cover such horizontal space that you have to back up even farther. And now you're kind of in the corner and you don't want to play back that far. Blast zones are sort of at a bad distance. Kind of a high ceiling, kind of a high horizontal, or kind of a long horizontal, right? Or wide, I should say. Make it so you have to edge guard her maybe a couple more times than you would have to on Yoshi's, right? On FOD, low side platforms can definitely interrupt the Sheik tech chases, which are great, right? You can slide off a lot of the time, or just like land on the side platforms when she's trying to ground wobble you, right? Sheik can't cap effectively because of the side platform RNG and a low top platform. Wall to ride helps. When there's a top platform but no side platforms, it can be easier to approach Sheik in the corner, right? So if you're on the top platform, she's just hanging out below, you can actually approach her decently effectively because she has nowhere to run, right? Lack of space means that you can get on top of Sheik sooner and force her into the corner faster, but also have less room to set up laser control. Definitely very similar to Yoshi's. Smaller horizontal blast zones, similar to Yoshi's as well. This is definitely a big thing, though. This is your big negative of this stage. Low side platforms can make it hard to corner pressure as Falco. Same thing that we talked about in essentially every other matchup when talking about this stage. This is a big issue in this one, though. A huge part of this matchup is corner pressure. Laser forward tilts, laser grabs, you know, it's just setting up that recovery edge guard sequence over and over and over again. But a lot of times the platforms can just mess you up, and it's really unfortunate that that happens. Low top platform makes it easier for Sheik to deal with you when you disengage there, or when you choose to like go to the top platform to use some mix-ups. And Sheik tilting through the platforms can be really powerful. A lot of times her up tilt can be really extremely difficult to deal with. I would consider Dreamland slightly worse, though. So you have a high top platform and a large amount of space, which is good. Horizontal space makes it so you can set up laser control. Depending on who has the lead, this is why it's a plus and a minus. The side platform game plan on both sides can be hard to deal with, right? It can be really telegraphed when Sheik is trying to run in on you when you like go to the side platform. But if you have to attack the side platform, it can be really difficult to deal with because the side platforms are so far apart. And then if she has the lead, it can be so hard to attack it because it's just so far away. And when you run it, it's even more telegraphed. Having a wall to ride is great. Sheik's recovery is buffed by the blast zones and having a high ceiling and also the high side platforms, right? So she can recover there. She can camp most effectively on the stage due to the platforms and the overall horizontal space. We already kind of talked about that. And it can be difficult to juggle because almost the entire stage is covered by platforms. So essentially the reason why FD is so good for you, or the reason why Pokemon Stadium is pretty good for you, is the reason why Dreamland is really hard. She has a lot of recovery mix-ups going down because of how much of the stage is covered by the platforms. On to our final matchup, Peach. We have Yoshi's here, which I think is the best the best stage in the matchup. So low top blast zone makes for off the top kills, very similar to Puff, which is fantastic. More percent of the stage is the corner. This whole matchup is a battle for stage position, and Falco pushes the corner advantage a lot. So if she backs up like once out of the center, she's in a really bad spot, right? And you can punish her really hard for that, as long as you're positioned correctly, which is fantastic. Having a wall to ride can help you recover, which is great. She can usually cover it though. This is one thing that I just want to highlight about Peach. It's not such a huge deal because Peach can still cover it with Dare, but yeah. So side platform can be used to recover and also have nice heights for dealing with Peach float. What I essentially mean by dealing with Peach float is you can go to the side platform and shoot some short hop lasers on that platform or short hop off and actually hit her pretty effectively. Poking through the low side platforms can be really good with dealing with Peach on the platform. A lot of times your up tilt can just like contest her down smashing, and your up tilt can lead to big damage as well. Peach doesn't have a lot of room to pull turnips, but it does have enough room for you to get lasers out because she's so slow horizontally, right? Top platform is at a low height that Peach can contest, but still moves up there slower than you, right? So going up there is still really good for you. And it also allows for you to threaten with wave dash off aerials or drop down lasers really effectively. So like your top platform mix-ups are really good. So this is a good thing for you, but maybe not great because she can probably kill you sooner, right? So close blast zones make it so you die at lower percent to Peach combos. This is also true for you because you kill her at low percents, but maybe she kills you at slightly lower percents as well. Battlefield, this is huge for you, right? High top platform can make it really hard for Peach to contest you. This could be a game-changing option, right? We've all seen the VOD of Westball's Camping Armada. You can essentially do that on Battlefield, and maybe even more effectively on Battlefield than you can on Dreamland. So high top platform is huge. Horizontal space allows you to set up laser control. You can use Shine Lands on this stage. Again, I kind of talked about that a little bit when I talked about Fox. Side platform heights are good for her to float at and throw turnips at, but you can also use the side platforms to contest that. Yeah. Blast zones are at medium range, so you get off the top kills, but they also can be hard to set up, right? There aren't like a ton of setups like Yoshi's. No walls to help recovery. This means that she can definitely edgeguard you quite a bit easier, but you do have the side platforms to recover too. Pokemon Stadium is very close in my mind with Battlefield. I put Battlefield above essentially just because I had to make a choice. So low ceiling makes it easy for the top platform or off the top kills, but no top platform complicates it. Horizontal space is great. Platform positions, we've already talked about that, right? You don't have to back up all the way into the corner. No walls to ride. Essentially, these are essentially everything for every matchup. But no platform to disengage to makes, or no top platform to disengage to makes it really hard to get out of the corner. A huge, huge, huge way to make it out of the corner in this matchup means that it is to full hop to the top platform. She has no real way to contest it unless she wants to read it really, really hard. But not having a top platform means if you full hop out of the corner, you got to land somewhere. And definitely somewhere that Peach can hit. And also the transformations mean that she can actually pull turnips. You might think that the transformations are better for you when you're scuffling, but Peach does pretty well in the scuffle, and then also, if you choose not to scuffle, she can pull a lot of turnips. So Dreamland, we got here. This is a huge plus, right? High top platform makes it really hard for Peach to contest you. Same thing with Battlefield. Horizontal space is great. Shine Lands again. Side platforms, essentially again. There's a lot of similarities between Battlefield and Dreamland in this matchup, but the big one, essentially like all of them are the same except you have a wall to ride, and then the big one is that she lives for a really long time, right? This forces you to win a lot more interactions, and Peach can be so punishing with those interactions that you lose, unless you kill her outright, which generally means that you're taking more risk, right? And she still kills you at relatively the same percent. It's very similar to the Puff matchup. And then we have FOD here, the second to the last. Having a wall to ride can definitely help you recover. It's not a huge deal, though, since Peach can cover with there. More percent of the stage is the corner, very similar to Yoshi's. Top platform is at a low height, but Peach can contest, right? This is essentially what we talked about on Yoshi's as well. You see the similarities between Battlefield and Dreamland. You can also see the similarities between Yoshi's Stories and FOD in this matchup, right? Low side platforms can allow Peach to get weird 70% down smashes, so it can be really difficult to deal with. And high ceiling can make it hard for you to kill Peach off the top, right? Another thing that I probably should have written is that corner pressure gets messed up a lot on this stage. And again, like I talked about, corner pressure is a huge part of this matchup, very similarly to how it's huge in the Sheik matchup. And then we have the last final stage of all of the matchups here. So FD, right, having a wall to ride is great. Once Peach is on the ground, you have a really strong ground game, but it's kind of tough because she can deal with your like ground game pretty well by going up and floating. Even though there are no platforms, it can be hard to shark her because of her air dodge and hitboxes coming down. Not impossible though. Definitely not impossible. It's definitely harder for you to shark her than it is like Sheik, but it's definitely something that's pretty good for you. But this is very obviously where the matchup swings, right? Her punish game is stupid good, and yours is way worse than it is on any other stage. Down here onto a side platform, or a top platform, or killing her with like an up tilt into a shine off the top from a platform is really good. And you don't have any of that on this stage. It could be incredibly hard to set up pillar combos in this stage, where she needs one tech chase read, or one shield grab, one down smash into a grab, and you literally lose your stock. You take 130% like at the best, and you don't maybe die. You get like one recovery mix up. And you definitely don't have a great way to deal with Peach float because you don't have the side platforms to contest her, right? But yeah, so again, this document is available to all of my subscribers if you guys want to check this out and not have to go through the whole video of me explaining it and everything. Hopefully there were going to be timestamps listed down below. If any of you guys have questions, concerns about any of the things that I listed here, if you have disagreements about any of the stages that I kind of presented, or even the order of the stages, right? Feel free to drop those in the comments and I'll definitely check it out. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch y'all next time, all right? Peace.